Let me tell y'all a story about a man who didn't just swing a sword, he lived by it. Now, Musashi wasn't your average samurai. He started young, real young, 13 years old when he fought his first duel. Not just some playground scuffle either. This was a real deal fight against a seasoned warrior. And wouldn't you know it, the kid walked away alive. The other fella didn't. That's how it began. They say Musashi never lost a single duel in his lifetime, over 60 of them. And these weren't just back alley brawls. He went up against the best swordsmen of his time, one after another, and beat them all. Cold, clean, quiet. Not because he was bigger or meaner, but because his discipline was something fierce. He fought not with rage, but with clarity. Like he'd already seen how it was gonna end before it even started. But here's what most folks miss. Musashi wasn't just some sword-slinging killer. The man was a painter, a calligrapher, a philosopher, a Buddhist too. You'd find him just as likely scribbling out poetry or studying the wind through the trees as you would see him training with a blade. He understood something a lot of folks never learn. The battle's not just outside you, it's in your head, your heart, your habits. He once wrote, "The true science of martial arts means practicing them in such a way that they will be useful at any time, and to teach them in such a way that they will be useful in all things." That right there, that's not just about swords, that's about life. See, in 1645, when he was already looking death in the eye, Musashi wrote his final words to the world. 21 little statements called Dokkodo, the way of walking alone. They weren't fancy, they weren't written to impress nobody. They were just plain truths, carved out of a life spent walking the edge of a blade. Let me give you a taste. Do not seek pleasure for its own sake. Do not, under any circumstances, depend on a partial feeling. Do not regret what you have done. Now, that's not the kind of stuff you'll find in a self-help book at the gas station. That's the kind of wisdom you earn, that you suffer for. And Musashi earned it with every scar, every sunrise, every hour he sat alone, watching the world and listening to silence. He lived by a code, not just the samurai code, though that was in his blood, but by something deeper, something he forged on his own. That's why I say he wasn't just a samurai, he was a ronin, a man with no master except the one he found in his own soul. The way is in training, that's what he said, and he meant it. Not just training your hands, but your mind, your spirit, your choices, every single day. So what can we learn from this quiet warrior who walked his own road? Well, first off, strength ain't loud. Discipline don't brag, and wisdom don't chase applause. Musashi never set out to be famous. He just never compromised. You want to live like that? Start by shutting your mouth and listening. Start by watching your habits, your reactions. Start by saying no to things that feel easy but cost you your peace. That's how Musashi lived. That's how he died. Not in fear, not in chaos, but in clarity. And friend, in a world that's always shouting, scrolling, and selling noise, that kind of clarity, that's about as rare as it gets.
Musashi once said, "Do not seek pleasure for its own sake." And let me tell you, he meant that. This fella didn't just say things for decoration. If he said a thing, you can bet your last dollar he lived it down to the bone. Now picture this, late 1500s Japan. Winter nights sharp as a whetted blade. There's Musashi, holed up in some drafty little shack, or maybe sitting under a tree deep in the forest, cold to the bone, wrapped in silence, Just him and his swords. No silk robes, no fire-grilled feast, no praise or comfort, just that edge-of-the-world quiet and his own breathing. He wasn't out there suffering just to suffer, no sir. He was training his soul to stay sharp, stay focused. He understood that if you let comfort creep in too early, you trade long-term strength for short-term sugar. And once you get a taste for easy living, it's mighty hard to go back. Think lightly of yourself and deeply of the world, he said. And what he meant was, don't go chasing every little feel-good itch you get. If you make your life all about comfort, you're building a house on swampland. It'll sink the first time the wind picks up. Musashi turned his back on all that glittery temptation, fancy food, soft beds, applause from the crowd. He didn't want to be liked. He wanted to be ready. That's the difference right there. Now look at us today. Lord help us. We've got more pleasure on tap than a king in the old days. You can order up dopamine like it's a burger combo. Scroll your phone, click buy now, fire up that streaming service, snack till your jaw goes numb. But tell me, does any of it satisfy? It don't. Because the kind of pleasure that's worth a damn doesn't come quick. It comes from grind and a skill, from showing up on the days you don't feel like it, from doing what needs doing when no one's watching. You think Musashi wanted to crawl into cold caves and eat like a monk? I guarantee you there were easier paths. But he knew, you may abandon your own body, but you must preserve your honor. He chose the path that forged his spirit, not fed his appetite. Ask yourself this, plain and simple. You want to watch 5 hours of TV? Or spend 1 hour getting better at something that matters? You want a sugar rush now? Or a body that don't give out when you're 50? You want to feel good today? Or feel proud tomorrow? Because that's what discipline is. It's choosing what matters over what's easy. It's saying not today to the part of you that wants to be pampered, and hell yes to the part of you that wants to grow. I ain't saying don't enjoy life. Lord knows a good cup of coffee and a quiet sunrise is worth more than gold. But I am saying, don't chase pleasure like a hound chasing its tail. You'll just end up dizzy and empty. So the next time life offers you the soft chair and the quick high, pause, breathe. Remember the Ronin out there in the cold, sword in hand, staring into the dark, not because he had to, but because he chose to. And maybe, just maybe, you'll choose the fire instead of the fleece.
Musashi once said, "By knowing one way, you know 1,000." Now that line right there, that's not poetry, that's gospel, if you got ears to hear it. See, Musashi didn't dabble. He wasn't out there trying a little archery on Mondays, painting on Tuesdays, sparring on Wednesdays, then taking Thursdays off to find himself. No, sir. From the time he was 15 years old, that boy walked out into the wide world with nothing but 2 swords and a fire in his belly, and he never looked back. He made it his life's mission to master the way of the sword, and by God he did. Fought over 60 duels and never lost, not one. He didn't win through brute strength alone, neither. He won because he studied every angle, every rhythm, every breath of the blade. It was his one way, and in knowing it deeply, he understood 1,000 things about life, death, and everything in between. Now look at us. Modern life's like a Vegas buffet, 1,000 flashy options, and you want to try them all. Photography? Sure. Coding? Why not? Yoga, podcasting, foreign languages, day trading, bonsai trees? Hell, it's all just a click away. So what happens? You pile your plate so high you can't even taste what's on it. You're full, but you're starving. You know a little about a lot and a whole lot of nothing about anything. That, my friend, is how you end up lost in your own damn kitchen. The world's full of folks who've dabbled,
Folks who gave up right when it started to get hard, who quit because they didn't see results after 2 weeks. Musashi didn't become a legend because he was naturally gifted. He became a legend because he stayed. Stayed when it was boring. Stayed when it was lonely. Stayed when it felt like nothing was moving. And over time, he dug so deep into his craft that the sword became an extension of his soul. That's what mastery is. It ain't flashy. It's quiet. It's stubborn. It's showing up when nobody's watching. Doing the reps, not for the glory, but for the principle. Let me give it to you plain. 1. Choose one damn thing. Not 20, one. Something that matters to you, even if nobody else gets it. 2. Cut the noise. Mute the apps. Turn off the TV. Tell the trends to take a hike. Focus is freedom, and distractions are a prison you built yourself. 3. Go deep, not wide. Depth brings wisdom. When you drill into the bedrock of one discipline, you strike oil, and suddenly you understand things other folks never even see. When Musashi didn't just swing a sword, he understood it. He knew the way of timing, distance, rhythm, stillness, things that translate into everything from strategy to relationships to daily damn life. When he said, "Perceive that which cannot be seen with the eye," he meant that mastery opens up invisible doors. You start to see patterns, truths, and principles that apply everywhere. Whether it's woodwork, welding, writing, or war, if you give your whole heart to it, the thing will teach you more than any book or guru ever could. So, next time you feel that itch to jump ship on whatever you're working on, ask yourself, am I quitting because this ain't right for me, or because I'm scared of the deep water? If it's the deep, well then, partner, that's exactly where you need to go. Because mastery don't live in the shallows. It waits down where the light gets dim and the pressure starts squeezing. That's where legends are born.
Musashi said never stray from the way. That's one of those lines that sounds simple until you sit with it a while. Then it opens up like a rattlesnake's jaw, and you realize he wasn't just talking about swordplay. He was talking about life itself. See, old Musashi had plenty of chances to live soft. After he became Japan's most feared swordsman, the rich and powerful offered him everything. Fine houses, silk robes, cushy positions. But you know what he did? He left. Yep, walked out of those palaces with nothing but his swords and a worn-out cloak. Not because he was crazy, but because he understood a truth most folks never even glimpse. There are 2 roads a man can take in this life. The first, I call it the crowded road. It's the road most folks are on. It's paved real smooth with comfort, distraction, applause, and the warm fuzzies of fitting in. You know it. It's fast food, social media likes, weekend getaways, and buy now, pay later. It's folks doing what everyone else does just to avoid standing out. The crowded road feels good at first, but walk it long enough and you find it don't lead nowhere special. It loops around in circles, and before long you realize you ain't lived, you just coasted. The second road? That's the one Musashi walked. It's what I call the lonely road. Ain't much traffic on it. It's quiet. Ain't no neon signs or cheering crowds, but it's got something the crowded road never will: meaning. The lonely road is made of early mornings and late nights, of showing up to train when your legs feel like tree trunks, of foregoing a soft bed so you can carve yourself into something sharper. It means saying no to what's easy, pushing through when nobody's watching, choosing your principles over your pleasures. Musashi lived out of caves and forest huts, trained alone in the mountains, and wrote philosophy with the same clarity he wielded a blade. That ain't glamour, that's discipline. And that discipline, that's freedom, brother. Real freedom. Now don't get me wrong, the lonely road ain't for the faint of heart. You'll feel alone sometimes. You'll question yourself. You'll watch others take shortcuts and get quick wins while you're still grinding. But here's the kicker. The lonely road may be harder, but it takes you places the crowded road can't reach. It shows you who you really are when nobody's clapping. It introduces you to the version of yourself you didn't know existed, stronger, sharper, steadier. Just like a desert traveler suffering heat and thirst, you press on, and then suddenly, there's the oasis. But only those who endure get to taste the water. Musashi didn't care for comfort, he cared for truth. And that kind of truth only shows up when the noise fades, when you've stripped life down to its bare bones. Never stray from the way. That's what he said. And what is the way? It's not some mystical fog. It's the road you walk when you live on purpose, when you don't let other people's comfort, opinion, or distraction knock you off course. It's walking toward mastery, not applause, toward substance, not surface. So ask yourself, plain and simple, which road are you on? And are you walking it because it's true or because it's easy? Choose wisely, friend. You can always turn around, but the farther you go, the deeper the ruts. And just so you know, every step you take on the lonely road makes the next one easier, until one day, it's no longer lonely. It's yours.
Musashi once wrote, "You may abandon your body, but you must preserve your honor." Now chew on that a second. The man was saying that your flesh and bone, the very meat sack that carries you through this world, can be tossed to the wolves if needed. But your honor? That stays. That's sacred. That's the last thing you let go of. And you know what? He meant it. See, honor wasn't just some fancy word to hang over a dojo door. In Musashi's world, and in Bushido, the warrior's path, honor was the root. Everything else, courage, discipline, sacrifice, it all sprouted from that one seed. It's easy nowadays to think honor's some old-fashioned word your granddaddy used when he was wearing a suit and talking about WW2. But Musashi knew it meant something deeper. Let me break it down for you. 1. Integrity. Do the right thing when nobody's watching. That's the backbone of honor. Musashi didn't fight fair. He fought true. He never pretended to be anything he wasn't. He didn't hide behind sweet talk or image. He showed up raw and real. So if you're cutting corners at work, lying to your girl, or pretending to be something you ain't on social media, friend, you ain't got a discipline problem. You got an honor problem. 2. Courage. Honor don't mean never being scared. It means showing up anyway. Musashi walked into duel after duel, knowing it might be his last, but he didn't flinch. He sharpened his blade and went anyway. These days, courage ain't just sword fights. It's telling the truth when it'd be easier to lie. It's taking the hard road when the shortcut's right there staring at you. It's getting up early to train, build, learn, even when nobody gives a damn but you. 3. Loyalty. Not just to others, but to your own damn path. That's where most folks go wrong. They start strong, workouts, projects, dreams, but when it gets tough, they jump ship. Musashi never did that. He stayed true. Didn't matter if he was rich, poor, praised, or hated. He had a code, and he walked it to the grave. So ask yourself, do you stay true? Or do you bail the second things get uncomfortable? Let me give you a plain example. Imagine 2 guys working the same job. One shows up late, checks his phone every 5 minutes, half-asses his way through the day. The other? He works steady, never brags, never slacks, helps others without making a fuss. Guess who gets the raise? Who earns the respect? Who builds a life they ain't ashamed of? That's right, the one with honor. Because honor's like compound interest. Slow at first, but eventually, it buys you everything that matters. Trust, respect, peace of mind. Now don't get me wrong, this ain't about being a doormat or martyr. Honor don't mean letting folks walk all over you. It means showing up at full strength and full dignity. Musashi never bragged about being unbeatable. He just was. Because he trained, he reflected,
He lived by principles no man could shake. And when death came knocking, he didn't panic. He sat in the lotus position, wrote down his final code, Dokkodo, the way of walking alone, and faced death like he faced every duel, head on. So here's the takeaway, friend. Discipline without honor, that's just ego wearing gym clothes. But honor, that's what keeps you going when it stops being fun. It's what turns a practice into a lifestyle, a job into a calling, a man into a legend. So the next time you're tempted to cheat, flinch, lie, or coast, stop. Ask yourself, is this worthy of the man I'm trying to become? Because one day, when you're old and sitting with your grandkids, you'll want to say what Musashi could have said without flinching. I didn't always win, but I never bowed to anything less than the truth. That right there is the real win. Musashi's legacy is not about killing with a blade, it is about living with one. Not in your hand maybe, but in your spine, in your will. His way was hard but clear. Stay sharp, stay true, and never trade your soul for comfort. In a world pulling you in every direction, his life reminds us you don't need 10,000 choices. You need one purpose, followed fully. That is where peace lives. So ask yourself, before you turn off this video and go scroll your life away, which road are you on? The noisy road of reaction or the quiet road of mastery? You do not have to win every battle to walk the warrior's path. You just have to choose it and keep choosing it. Day by day, step by step. That's the way. And it starts now.